when I objected to what my government was doing 7 years ago, the part that I objected to was compelled speech. It's like, you're not getting control of my tongue. Why? Because there's nothing worse than you can do to me, than that. Nothing. Now, you might not know that, but that means nothing as far as I'm concerned. So I was much more afraid of losing control of my tongue than I was afraid of losing my job. Why would I want a job if I had to lose my tongue to keep it? That's insane. It's far worse than insane. It's the very pathway to insanity.
In this enlightening video, renowned psychologist and public speaker Jordan Peterson delves into the complexities and challenges he has faced due to governmental actions against him. With his characteristic clarity and depth, Peterson discusses the circumstances that led to what he describes as attacks from the government, offering viewers insight into the broader implications of his experiences for freedom of speech, intellectual debate, and individual rights.
So, because one of the things you might ask yourself, for example, is, well, when should you not have your job? Like, no job is worth an infinite price. Well, here's a criteria. If you have to lie to keep it, well, why would you want that job? Unless the job you want is like professional liar. So for me, once even
entertainment.
This was even true with the university, is that if the cost of me maintaining my university position is that I had to falsify my language, well, then what that means to me is that's not a place I want to work anymore. So, and that is, part of that is, say, fear of God, the fear of God that's the beginning of wisdom. No, there's one of the most powerful presumptions, proclamations in the biblical corpus is that there is no better guide than the truth. And that's meant practically and theologically. It's actually meant. It's like, the statement is very straightforward.
Well, whose truth?
Well, it's got to be your truth in some sense, because all you have access to is your truth. Now, you can try to orient that truth to truth itself. You can struggle to do that, and you do that in a variety of ways, and you should do that, but you have to start with the truth as it reveals itself to you. But the notion is, and it's a very practical notion, and you could think of it this simply. It's like, how are you going to guide yourself through complex territory with a faulty map? I mean, if your presumption is, well, I need to lie to get through this. Well,
fake it till you make it.
Well, that's slightly different. That's an interesting variation, because sometimes when you adopt a new position, you have to act out the position before you're expert at it. And so sometimes fake it till you make it isn't a lie. It's just what you need to do when you've made a status transition. But often people will fake it instead of making it, and that's a very bad idea. What I did try was to, and I do try, was to make sure that I could feel firm ground under my feet. Now, you can feel that, and if you're careful with your words, if you're putting on a show, you will become self-conscious. And the reason for that is because putting on a show is an expression of self-consciousness. Putting on a show means it's about you, by definition, right? You're displaying yourself for status, for example, to be the smartest person in the room, for whatever short-term, self-centered gain you're currently after. Well, that makes you self-conscious. Okay, so one of the things you can do while you're speaking is you can feel whether or not what you're saying is making you self-conscious. And if it is, you can stop saying that. And that's a great relief, because there's actually very little that's more uncomfortable than being self-conscious. Now, if your words aren't designed to suit yourself, then they won't make you self-conscious. And that's There's nothing better than that. And then people will trade that. They'll trade that. It's like the pearl of great price, you know. They'll trade that for something of much lesser value. And that's foolish. Now, you know, sometimes there's a conflict because maybe you're called upon to say something that's going to cause you trouble in the short term. It's going to interfere with your perceived status, or it's going to cause you financial trouble even in the short run. And so you won't do it. You don't do it. But all you're doing is sacrificing the greater to the lesser. And see, I learned this partly by being a clinical psychologist. So one of the things I learned from being a clinical psychologist, also in my own family, was that if you have a disagreement with someone and you pretend that you don't, all that happens inevitably is that the disagreement deepens and multiplies and extends over a much longer period of time, even forever.
Resentment.
Yes, that's certainly one of its manifestations. Yes, well, resentment and lies, you know, like if we're in a relationship and I have to see you every day and there's something you do that annoys me, well, let's take that apart. So there's something you do habitually that annoys me. Okay, there's two possibilities. One is you're annoying. One is there's something wrong with how I'm looking at it, or some intermingling of those. Now, I could bring that up. Now, you might say, well, how would I bring that up? And I would say something like, when this happens, I find myself irritated. What do you think about that? And now I have to really want to know, because part of me is going to think, well, I'm hoping that it's you that's annoying and not me that's stupid. But I might be stupid. So I'm going to put it out there neutrally. It's like, let's sort this out, because I'd rather not be irritated with you. And so if you can figure out why I'm blind and you're fine, you tell me and I'll do what I can to sort that out. But if we figure out that you're annoying, then let's see what we can do about that so that I don't have to be annoyed with you every goddamn day for the rest of my life. Right? And that's a war, right? And that's often the sort of war that people don't want to have. And it's certainly the sort of thing they'll turn a blind eye to. But if you have 30 of those things with your wife, you're done. Your marriage is done.